Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar that is brought to you by Kenanga Investment Bank. So today we are very excited to be hosting the management of Perak Transit Berhad to be on our Cantrade webinar tonight. So today we are going to have this live chat with Perak Transit, which we will delve deeper into their Q4 results review and also the futures outlook. So today we are very excited because we have the executive director, who is Dato Cheong, and also the chief financial officer, Jennifer Chin from Perak Transit Berhad, to share with us about their company, their business performance, as well as their futures prospect. Okay. So we are setting the room right now, and let's wait a bit more for more people to join in. And we also live stream this to YouTube. So for our friends here tuning in from YouTube, so good evening to all of you here. All right, so thanks for joining this session. I'm sure that you all are doing okay. If you are doing okay right now and you're all ready for this session, please type yes in the chat box so we know that you're ready, you're excited to these sessions. All right, fantastic. We have so many people ready for this. Okay, this is a session that you are not going to miss out because you're going to gain so much insights into the operation of Perak Transit Berhad and also their business performance. So before we begin, just want to go through a disclaimer. So whatever we share on this webinar is only for educational purpose. So in no way that I give any buy or sell signal to any companies that you mentioned. So if you decide to invest in Perak Transit, you do it at your own risk. Okay. So yeah, without further ado, let me hand over the session to Jennifer from Perak Transit, who is the Chief Financial Officer of P-Trans. Jennifer, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sean. A very good evening to everyone. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank Cantrade for organizing this briefing today. So I will share our corporate presentation now. Okay, so today basically we are going to cover three different areas. The first one is about the business overview. It's basically for newcomers. Okay, so secondly is about the quarterly results, and thirdly is about our future plans. Okay, let's start off with the business view. Okay, so our company have three different core activities. The first one and the main one, all the revenues and earnings come from is from our express bus terminal. So currently we have two own and operate express bus terminal, and then subsequently we also have bus services. Okay, our bus services basically is to support our terminal operations because it's helped to bring crowds to our terminal. Okay, the third core activities is actually our petrol stations. So petrol station is another support activities to our bus operation because our buses can pump petrol at our own petrol stations, but the petrol station is also open to public. Okay, I will drill into each and every one of the activities in more detail. Okay, the first one is about the terminal operations. Okay, so just now I mentioned that we have two gazetted express bus terminal. Okay, so one is called Terminal Meru Raya, located in Jelapang, Meru Raya, Perak. Another one is called Kampar Putra Central. Okay, so it's located in a second tier city of Perak, in Kampar itself. Okay, you can see that majority of our revenue contributions basically come from the terminal operations, which consists of 60% in 2020. Okay, our operating profit out of the whole group also consists of 94%. So majority of the earnings is actually coming from these terminal operations. So we are not only providing basic facilities just for a terminal or for passengers, but we have add on a more concept in our terminal. Okay, we drill in more detail each of our terminals. So the first one is Terminal Meru Raya. Okay, we have shared two pictures here. One is the previous temporary terminal in Medan Koping in Perak itself. But once our Terminal Meru Raya have completed the constructions, so all the express bus operator is gazetted and regulated to move to our terminal. So it's regulated to pick up and drop off the passengers in our terminal. Okay, so all the express bus that pass by Ipoh have to pick up and drop off the passengers in our terminal. Okay, and then recently Terminal Meru Raya has been graded as grade A. Okay, so out of Malaysia, there is only a few terminals with grade A status lah. So Terminal Meru Raya is one of it. So how to obtain grade A? Okay, first of all, you have to have a centralized ticketing system, which means in the old days, the express bus operators will operate each and individual ticketing booth, and then they could compete among each other. So it will be very messy in the terminal. So there will be shouting for customers and so forth. But with the implementations of centralized ticketing system, all these individual ticketing booths will be demolished. Okay, so the express bus operator no longer need to rent a space with us, but they only need to register and upload the data in the system. So passengers can now purchase the ticket either online, self-service kiosks, or through our ticketing counters. So we will help to manage. Of course, we will charge a commission per ticket sales and per bus entrance. Okay. So once passengers purchase the ticket, they can actually choose which are the favorites express bus operators based on the frequency, pricing, the branding, and so forth. So they can pick from a tab, iPad itself. Then subsequently, there is a QR code for you to scan to the waiting hall. Okay. So we also provide an LED screen just like an airport. Okay. We adopted the model, which is the LED screen will display the departure and arrival of all the buses. So it is for the convenience of the passengers. So what we say that this is like a airport model in a smaller scale in the terminal operations lah. Okay, so Terminal Meru Raya is actually a two-story building and a basement car park. So in a year, there is actually 2 millions of footfall of people that pass by our terminal. Why is it this data very important to us? Okay, because the majority of the revenue from our terminal is actually generated from rental of advertising and promotional space, which means all the pillars, all the walls inside, outside of our terminal, billboard, everything. So we rent out to media agency to help us to manage. So we will actually receive a fixed monthly rental from them. Okay, and then the promotional spaces will be like lobby, concourse areas. We also rent to media agency to help us to actually deal with the end customer. So we just receive a fixed monthly rental. So we are secure in that sense. Okay, other than that, we also have additional revenue coming from rental of shop and kiosks. Okay, and then we have like profit sharings. We have some of the entrance fees and so forth. Okay, so just now I mentioned that it's actually a two-story building and a basement car park. So it's a mature terminal. So we are operating for more than 8 years. The land size is around 8.3 acres. The gross leasable area is around 51,000 square feet. But in Terminal Meru Raya, there is more express bus operator that is operating, which is 55 operators are operating in our terminal. Okay, so later I will do a comparison with Kampa Putra Central. So, okay, for Kampa Putra Central, we also share two pictures here. One is the previous express bus station. Okay, once our Kampa Putra Central have obtained the full CCC in 7th of August 2020 last year. So all the express bus operators are regulated to move to our terminal. So you can see that the size of it is actually much more bigger than our Meru Raya, because the size of it is actually 8 times bigger. Okay, so why we actually choose Kampa to build a terminal? Because Kampa is a university town. So we know that university town is will always be growing, so that you'll be growing of populations in terms of students or maybe the local residents and so forth. So there is Utah, Keita, Westlake International Schools that is just 5 minutes away from our terminal. So they are from this side. Okay, and then the local residents is around 100,000. So in Kampa. Okay, but there is only 12 express bus operators. So compared to Meru Raya, there will be lesser passengers and operators, but our offerings is very different from the Meru Raya lah. Okay, because this building we actually have entertainment center, sports center, and then we will have supermarkets, and then a university renting in one floor in our terminal, which is UTM. Okay, so currently they have around 150 students intake, but they are target to grow to 3,000 to further to 5,000 in future. Okay, we also have a 3 stories of hotel, but 2 stories we are going to convert to hostel to rent it to UTM students to cater for their needs. Okay, 1 story of the hotel will maintain as budget hotel. So there is a lot of offerings and a one-stop center offered to the residents in Kampa itself. Okay, you can see that it's actually a 11 stories building. Okay, there is a CCC date. Last year we obtained it. The land size is only 3.7 acres, but the gross leasable area is 8 times bigger. It's around 400,000 square feet. Okay, so this is about Kampa Putra Central. Okay, we move on to bus operations. Okay, bus operations, basically we have 3 different kind of services. The first one is call it stage or city bus. Okay, so we have signed 2 contracts with the federal government. The first contract is called Interim Stage Bus Support Fund, which passengers come out to our bus, they pay me bus fare. That is my revenue, okay? But if at the end of the month, if I'm having any operational loss, I will report back to the federal government. The federal government will pay me a subsidy to cover my loss. Okay, so this is the first program. The second program is called a Stage Bus Services Transformation Program. Passengers come out to our bus, they pay me bus fare. Okay, but that is not my revenue. At the end of the month, I need to accumulate all these bus fare and pass it back to the federal government. So what I receive from the government is based on cost per kilometer run, which means that if today is a raining day, no one come out to our bus. So I still continue to provide the service. So the government will still pay me cost per kilometer run. So this is the beauty of stage bus, which means that it's not based on ridership. It's actually based on the services that we provided to the public. So majority of our buses is consists of stage bus and city bus. Okay, so second type of our buses is called express buses. Okay, so express buses, we know that there is no subsidy from government. That's why we are very picky on choosing only profitable routes to run. For example, we are only running to short distance. For example, to Lumut, Cameron, Taiping, Penang, Butterworth, TBS, Cheras, and so forth. So we are not running to Singapore, Kelantan, and Terengganu. So we are only running short haul. Only need 1 driver so that we are able to save costs in that sense. And then we are only choose profitable routes to run. Okay. The third services that we provided is called charter bus and bus advertisement. Okay, we utilize our spare bus to rent out for activities. Okay, so they can rent out buses for their activities, either is public or private sectors. Okay, our buses also wrap with bus advertisement. Okay, from time to time, we also able to secure contracts with local council or federal government. For example, Perak hot on and hot off bus. So this is a partner with Tourism Perak. The buses will bring all the passengers to the tourist spot in Perak itself, okay, during weekends and public holidays. So that is another things, the services that add value in terms of bus operations. Okay, so bus operations only consist of 21% of our total group revenue in 2020. Okay, in terms of operating profit, it consists of 6% out of the whole group. Okay, so next we go to petrol station. So petrol stations, again, is a support activities. We have 4 petrol stations in total, all located in Perak. 2 with Shell brand, 1 with BHP, and another with Petron. So like mentioned earlier, this is a support to our bus operations. Our buses can pump petrol at our own petrol station, but they are also open for public lah. Okay, so but we know that the margins and then the earnings is not significant lah from petrol station. Okay, so I have basically covered the business overview. Now I will go to the second area, which is the fourth quarterly results and 2020 results in a summaries. So there are actually five highlights here. The first one is this is actually the group best quarterly and full year earnings. Okay. Secondly is more than half of the revenue, around 60% is derived from the terminal operation. Okay. Third point is the profit margin expanded further because we have increase in terminal operations. The revenue increase in terminal operations. So basically, the margin from terminal operation is very high. The gross profit margin is around 80%. So when you increase the terminal operations revenue, it helps to increase your profit margin. Okay, fourth point is healthy balance sheet. So later I will go through that. We have actually reduced the net gearing and also the net debt. So the last point is tapping on new opportunities in terminal. This is basically regarding terminal management services. So I will cover in more detail later on. Okay, so here is some comparison, third quarter versus fourth quarter 2020 comparison. Okay, our fourth quarter reported the best quarterly revenue, increased by around 1% Q on Q. Okay, so due to the increase in revenue from the terminal operations, okay, from the terminal operations is also thanks to the increase in the profit project facilitation fees from 2 projects in fourth quarter, and then additional NP income, advertising and promotional income from Kampa Putra Central. Okay, so subsequently, regarding the Patami also strengthened by around 10% Q on Q, and then the profit before tax was lifted by around 11% Q on Q. Okay, this against also due to the higher revenue and earnings from terminal operations. And another factors, which is the interest expense, actually fell Q on weaker interest rate and also the lower debt level. Okay, next is actually the fourth quarter 2019 versus the fourth quarter 2020 result. So the revenue increased by around 8% year on year. Okay, so this against it's thanks to the terminal operation revenue rose by around 54% year on year, despite the fall in the bus operations and petrol station revenue due to the traffic was affected, and we voluntarily actually stopped the bus operations in all reflected in the second quarter to help to contain the spread of the pandemic lah. So everything, all the sales drops from petrol stations and bus operations, all already reflected in the second quarter. Okay, so that's why in a year-on-year comparison, so there is a drop in these two sectors, but the terminal operation rose by around 54%. Okay, and then the Patami also strengthened by around 12% year-on-year, also due to the same reason, contributions from terminal operations, also due to the net interest expense fell due to the cost, and then the level of borrowings declined. Okay, so the next slide is regarding the 12 months 2019 versus the 2020 result comparisons. Okay, the revenue was dropped by around 4% year on year, but the Patami was dropped by around 5% year on year. So the drop again is due to the bus operation and petrol station revenue fell. Okay, but the increase in Patami is due to the higher terminal operations contributions lah. Okay, so the profit before tax was lifted around 20% year on year. Okay, in 2020. So next. Okay, next about our financial positions as at 31st December 2020. Okay, you can see that our fourth quarter net debt level actually fell around 3% Q on Q and around 10% year on year. Okay, this we have to thanks to the successful conversion of warrants in 2020, which helped us to be able to obtain a 120 million cash inflow. So we have utilized some of these cash inflows to repay our sukuk borrowings lah. Okay, so that's why our net debt fell. Okay, our gearing actually declined from second quarter 2020 from around 78% to 46% in third quarter, and further fell to 43% in the fourth quarter. Okay, so the gross borrowing fell to 226 million compared to 291 million in third quarter 2020, and also as compared to 301 million fourth quarter 2019. This against due to our partial repayments of sukuk borrowings. Okay, so here there is a 6 years financial performance trend. You can see that from the chart itself, is actually all uptrend in terms of revenues and earnings. The 5-year revenue growth rate is around 10%, and the average gross profit margin is around 45%. Okay, and then the EBITDA margin is also expanding throughout the 6 years. The PATAMI 5-year growth rate is around 17%. Okay, so here we would like to share a pie chart about our terminal operations revenue in 2015, 2019, and 2020. Okay, you can see that the terminal operations revenue increased from 40% in 2015 to 60% in 2020. So the breakdown of revenue in 2020 is 60% come from the terminal operation, 21% come on bus operations, and 19% come from the petrol station. Okay, so next is actually the growth strategy. The first one will be the develop, own, and operate. In short, we call it DOO lah. Okay, so currently we have 2 terminals which we own and operate. So just now I mentioned, the first one is Terminal Meru Raya, second one is Kampar Putra Central. Okay, so the second growth strategy is called Terminal Management Services. Okay, so this is the excitement in 2021 and moving forward. So how this works and how is it different from DOO? Okay, so in Malaysia, there is more than 100 terminals which is owned and operated by the local council. Okay, we have a lot of options for the local council lah. So if, for example, the existing terminal like Meru Raya and like Kampar Putra, so we cannot help to upgrades anymore. So we will suggest to them maybe we can move the terminal to a new site. So we will develop an entirely newly built building lah. Okay, but it will be owned and operated by us. But of course, the disadvantages is it will involve a high capex. Okay, so but then we will have another options if the existing terminal is matured and then we are able to help them to upgrade that existing terminal. So we suggest to them, okay, maybe we come up with a minimal capex, maybe less than 10 million per terminal. Okay, we help you to upgrade the terminal, implement centralized ticketing system so that the terminal will have a better grade. Okay, so in return, either we receive a fixed management fees, or maybe based on a profit sharing basis, or maybe we help you to manage the commercial area so that we have the entire revenue and earnings from the rental of that commercial area. So there is a lot of options that we can offer to the to the local council. So this is, we call it terminal management services. So which means that the terminal is not owned by us. So we are helping the local council to renovate, to upgrade, and to manage. So in return, we will have either a fixed management fees or in other forms lah. So that is called a terminal management services. So the benefit of it is smaller capex will be involved, but with more recurring earnings and visible earnings. Okay, and faster earnings lah. Okay, third is expand profit margin from cost saving to new technologies. Okay, for example, with the centralized ticketing system, it's actually a technology to it. So we are also creating an app that so that the stage bus passengers can actually download the app and then they can access what is the estimated time of arrival of the next buses, and then they can access the bus routes, the buses that we are going to stop, in which bus stop, and so forth. So all the information in that particular app. So that that is another initiative lah in terms of technology. So we haven't launched the app yet, but will be launched very soon lah. Okay, next slides. So it will be more detail about the DOO, which is the develop, own and operate. So other than Terminal Marine Raya and Gambas Putra Central, what is next? Okay, the next terminals we plan to build wholly owned under the DOO model is called Bidor Central. Okay, we already acquired a piece of land, 4.9 acres. So why we actually would like to choose Bidor to build a terminal? Because of a few reasons. The first one is because the local council would like to close down the existing terminal in Bidor and Tapa. Okay. Second reason is because Bidor is an important access road to Cameron Highland. So third reason is because just 15 minutes away there is a university. So there is a students' needs lah in Bidor itself. Fourth reason is because for Sun they are going to move their new site in Bidor. So with the developments of Bidor Central, we are not only serving the local council, the local residents, but we are also serving the students, the factory workers, the tourists, and so forth. Okay. So, but Bidor Central, we know that it will develop under the own and operate basis. So the capex, it will be more than 100 million. So the construction is expected to start in second half of this year. Okay. So Trono will be something after Bidor. So Bidor will take around 2 years to complete lah. The constructions will take around 2 years. So after, what is next after Bidor? It might be Trono, or it might be other more strategic located site lah. Okay, so that one we get to discover. Okay, so this is under DOO. Okay, we back to terminal management's contract. In January, we actually able to secure a collaboration agreement, a 9 years agreement. Okay, starting from the revenue contribution, actually start in 1st of February 2021. Okay, for 9 years period. So the capex that will be involved is around 3.5 million, will be amortized over 9 years. Okay, so this is actually based on a fixed management fees, 1.2 million management fees per year, subject to a 3% minimum increment of the management fees every single year. Okay, so 3% is just the minimum lah. So we can negotiate for a higher percentage in terms of footfall factors, the tenancy able to secure, and so on. Okay, so the first one that we already secure is called Kuantan Central. So the second terminal that we have announced in February this year is called Terminal Bus Shahab Perdana, which is from Alostar. Okay, we are able to secure a 15 years contract. So the revenue contributions will start maybe in 1st of April 2022 or upon completions of the renovation works, okay, of that particular terminal, whichever is earlier lah. Okay, so normally constructions works will take around 6 months lah, around 6 months. So it depends on when the renovations work are able to be completed. Okay, so that the revenue contributions and the earning contributions can be earlier lah. Then maybe it can be by second half of this year. Okay. So the capex that will be involved is around 6.5 million. It will be amortized over 15 years. So the model is a bit different here. So there is no fixed management fees. There is a variable and upside, okay? Which means that we help to manage the commercial areas in that particular terminal, okay? So which means that we can lease out the advertising and promotion in the commercial areas, the shop and kiosks, and so forth. So we are able to secure that part lah. So why is it different? Why is it Alostar Central different from the Kuantan Central? There is a two different in terms of the model. This is because it's part of the risk management lah. Okay, because for Alostar Central, there is a lot of anchor tenants already show their interest that they would like to rent a space in the commercial areas. So with that positive feedback from the tenants itself, potential tenants itself, So we would like to capture that opportunity to capture all the rental received from the commercial area instead of just obtain a fixed management fees. Okay, whereas for Kuantan Central, we want to be more conservative. For the time being, we want to secure a fixed management fees lah, for the time being. But in future, there might also be an upside because we can negotiate for a higher increment in terms of management fees, or maybe we can negotiate and maybe can we change the model a bit and so forth. So that is the difference between these two terminals. Okay, so below is some of the key areas that mention what is the difference between DOO and TMC. Okay, DOO one terminal will cost more than 100 million. Okay, but TMC one terminal will cost less than 10 million. Okay, so the second point is about the timing. So build one new terminal, it will take at least 2 years. Okay, but to renovate it and then to start to operate, it will take lesser time. It will take around between 3 to 6 months. So that basically is the difference between the DOO and TMC. Okay, next is about the expand profit margin. Okay, in 2015, our EBITDA margin is around 45%. It actually grew to 65% in 2020. Okay, so there is a track record in improving the margin. So there is a few factors. One is we focus on growing the terminal operations. Okay, so we are actually not only improving the attractiveness of the terminal itself, but we also help to provide more offerings to the neighborhood. So the second factor is actually maximizing advertising and promotional contents, because most of our advertising is on a printing media basis. So in future we can slowly convert it into more digital platform, so that we can renegotiate for a higher rental rate with the media agency lah. Okay, so third factors is turning cost base into profit center. For example, our petrol stations operations is not only as a cost center to our bus operation, but it is also open for public. So it's turning it into profit center. So we are also considering similar opportunity. For example, our express bus, we have compartments. So maybe in future we can partner with a courier service. So we can help to deliver smaller parcel from terminal A to terminal B. Then the courier service can help to deliver the smaller parcel to the end customer. So that is a possibility. So that is a lot of opportunity for us to explore. The fourth factors is about the operating scale. So we will actually secure more terminal management services contracts in future. So it will be this year and moving forward, and also secure more bus services contract. Okay, so this is basically the last slide. Okay, so I would like to emphasize on a few positive investment fundamentals. So there is 5 factors here. One is our business is basically unique. This is due to there is basically no direct benchmark like in Malaysia, that there is no one company that own and operate a terminal, own and operate a stage bus, express bus, and also a petrol station. So there's basically no direct benchmark and no direct comparison, what we can say. Okay, the second point is resilient base. Okay, with the pandemic in place like last year and so forth, so we are still able to deliver a good financial results and increase, started the operations in Dampa Putra Central, started to secure the rental income from the terminal and so forth. So, and then able to increase the revenue contribution from the terminal operations, so that our profit margin are able to increase in that sense. Okay, the third factor is new opportunities. So, like mentioned, there is more than 100 terminals owned and operated by local councils. So there is a lot of opportunity for us to explore, either to help them to develop, own, and operate a new terminal, or help them to manage and renovate existing terminal. So there is a lot of opportunity in that sectors. So fourth is the expansion phase. So we are actually running two engines at one time, which means the first engine is to develop, own and operate. Okay, the second one will be the terminal management services. So we are running concurrently. Okay, the last factors is good financial. This, like I mentioned, during the pandemic, so we have a recurring incomes in our books and so forth. So we still are able to deliver a good financial results in 2020 lah. Okay, before I pass to Dato to do a conclusions, so I will touch on two more items, which is the first one is regarding our dividend lah. So during our fourth quarter result, we have announced that we are going to distribute a first interim dividend of RM0.008 per shares or 0.8 cents lah per shares, okay, to award the shareholders. And secondly, previously we also say that we are committed to pay a quarterly dividend to award shareholders. Thirdly is we have announced that we have formalized our dividend policy lah. Previously, our dividend policy is to pay up to 25% of our net profit. But based on our track record, we have been paying around 35%. And then in 2020, we are paying around 41%. Okay, so we have formalized the dividend policy to pay at least 35% of our net profit to the shareholders. So this part is regarding the dividend. Okay, the second part I want to cover is about the MCO 2.0 lah. So MCO 2.0 is unlike MCO 1.0 because operation is operating as usual lah. Is ongoing. Okay, due to 4 reasons. The first reason is because our advertising and promotion. So we sign contract annually with our media agency. Okay, so by right, the contract will be expired in the 1st of March this year. But we are able to secure and obtain an early renewal of our contract early this year, which means in January. So we are able to secure that contract. So the contract has been renewed without any reduction in the rental rate. So that part has been secured because that is very important. That is the major revenue from our terminal operations. Okay, so that one settled. So second point is the rental income from our terminal, either is it from A&P or either is it from shop and kiosk. So those are actually fixed in terms of because contract has been signed. So which means that the rental income basically has been secure because contract, everything has been signed on a fixed term. Okay, thirdly is because project facilitation fees is still ongoing because we at least have a 1 year order book in hand. Fourth reason is because terminal management services negotiations are still ongoing because there is a demand to upgrade the terminal in Malaysia. Okay, so thank you very much. I'll pass on to Dato to do a conclusion before we open up for Q&A session. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here speaking Mandarin. 在 COVID-19 的这段时期我们的集团在营运里仍然是拥有稳定的收入。当疫苗的出现呢，帮助国家的经济复苏，也对我们的集团有了很多的发展的机会。当地的活动量也在大幅增加，这也提升我们巴士总站的客流量和租金的收入。我们巴士总站呢我们的巴士总站的人流也将会因为法州的许可和外国的游客而大量的增加。我们也准备好，正在争取更多的霹雳州和外国的巴士总站来营运，以便增加我们目前现在的收入。好，谢谢大家 ，Thank you。
Okay, thank you, Dato. So we may open up for Q&A.
Okay, thank you so much, Dato Cheong. Would Jennifer want to give us like a translated summary of what Dato have just said to our our Malay and also Indian friends?
Okay, sure. Okay, so I will translate a bit. So, okay, during the pandemic, our group has recurring income from our existing operations. With the recovery of economy due to post-vaccinations, it will help our group to grow further. The increasing domestic mobility post-vaccinations will help to increase the footfalls and the rental income in our terminals. The crowd in our terminals will increase when the borders are reopened and the public are allowed to cross states. Thank you.
All right, great. So right now I think all of us here have understand, okay, that Perak Transit has a record profit year in 2020, and of course we look forward for a better performance in 2021 and onwards. So for those of you who have any questions to ask Dato and also Jennifer, who are respectively the executive director of Perak Transit and also the chief financial officer of Perak Transit Berhad, please key in and type your questions in the Q&A box, not the chat box. If you're tuning in from Zoom, please type it in the Q&A box, because in chat box, right, there will be messages, then we might miss and overlook your questions. So please type it in the Q&A box. And we have about 15 minutes for the Q&A until about 9:30. So yeah, please keep your questions coming. But for those, because right now I see on the screen, we already have so many questions. So if you feel that your questions have already been answered by Jennifer or also Dato, you can actually dismiss your own question. If you feel that your question has already been answered in the presentation, you can also dismiss the question, so we can ask those questions that are relevant and pertinent. All right. Okay, on my screen, I have 50 over questions right now. So of course, if Jennifer, if any question that you would like to answer, so you can also let us know, huh?
Okay.
Okay. So the first question is by Roger Fong, who want to ask, would you be able to share like how long are the contracts with the media companies for the advertising space? For example, are they on annual renewal basis?
Okay. Yes, they are actually on an annual renewal basis with both the media agency at both the terminals lah. So why is it so? Because we like to negotiate for a higher rental rate every single year. Because the rental rate is actually both based on the footfall factors and also spaces available and also the market condition. So like in Meru Raya, in our past 5 years growth rate is around 6%. So that is that we can actually use that data to renegotiate for a higher rental rate. That's why the contract is fixed at an annually basis.
Okay. The next question is by Adia, who want to ask that in relation to your debt level. So there's still a net debt of about 200 million to date. So the first question is, when will the debt be reduced to a more manageable amount, since P-Trans is a profitable company? So second question is, when is P-Trans going to be a net cash company?
Okay. Regarding our net debt, right? Because in our Sukuk arrangements is based on a quarterly repayment basis. So the Sukuk is for 7 years lah. But we have do early repayments in the fourth quarter, so it will help us to reduce our net debt. Okay, so why is it we are actually a net debt company? So basically we are a growing and expanding company. So we will need financing to actually help us to expand either mainly in, for example, we want to develop, own and operate a new terminal. So we will need that upfront to help us to actually for the construction cost lah. But the revenue, the earnings will come back once we have open for operations lah. Because we are basically operating and expanding company.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. So the next question is asked by Chong Bing Hin. So may I know like who are your competitors, and do you think there will be more terminals built and operated by other players?
Okay. Like I have disclosed earlier, in Malaysia, most of the terminal is actually owned and operated by the local council lah. So very little private sectors that own and operate lah. So we are one of it, and Penang Central is owned and operated by MRCB. So it's very little company will basically own and operate a terminal. So that's why there's a lot of opportunities. So why is it so? Because maybe I can share a bit on the high barriers to entry lah. Okay, so there is a few factors like in terms of high barriers to entry in our industry. So the first one is very high capex lah. So if to build a newly built terminal, it will cost you more than 100 million. So it's very difficult to get financing if you are new in this industry. So because we have our track records and we have our experience and so forth, so it's easier for us. And then secondly, we'll need the expertise because we always say that it's different. Building a terminal is very different from building a mall. So building a terminal, the land usage of it, you need to be a terminal bus. And in every cities, they only allow one express bus terminal and one city bus terminal. And the state government already draw in their master plan where is the location of the terminal. So if you already occupied that piece of land, so it's very difficult for others to actually basically to replace it lah. Okay, and then subsequently, before you start the constructions, you will need the support from the local council and the federal government. So how to gain the support is basically if you have the track records and the experience, and if you are doing right things all this while, so that is basically a very strong point for you to get a support lah from the government side.
All right. Thank you so much, Jennifer. The next question is asked by Bu Peng. What is the projected earnings for 2021 and 2022? What are the factors that will affect the company's earnings apart from the current COVID pandemic situation?
Okay, so I cannot disclose in quantum. So, but there will be a growth lah, absolutely, because our Kampar terminal just started in September 2020. So 2021 is basically the first year contribution from Kampar terminal. So that is the add value and then the additional earnings to our bottom line. So secondly, we have ventured into this terminal management services. In previous year, we didn't have this additional revenue. So if, for example, every year we are able to secure at least 4 to 5 this kind of contract, this figure will multiply every single year and it's recurring and then it is secure in that sense. So what I can say that there will absolutely be a growth. So at least a double-digit growth.
Wow. Good to hear that double-digit growth. The next question is asked by Hui Yong Qing. Now, it seems that your business model is kind of capital intensive in relations to whether your DOO model or TMC model. May I know what is the return on the assets?
Okay, so DOO model basically actually for both models, the return of it is actually more than 20%. But the margin of it is actually very high. It's around 80% in terms of gross profit margin. But for DOO, of course, the payback period will be longer. But for terminal management services, the payback period will be much more shorter.
Okay. The next question is asked by Aziz Bashir. What is the plan for the APP mentioned by Jennifer, and how did the APP increase the revenue and profit?
Okay, I think she's mentioning about the ANP, which means the advertising and promotional. Okay, so just now we mentioned that we have already renewed the advertising and promotion contract with our media agency for 2021. So this will be renewed annually because of the negotiation for a higher rental rate. So like I mentioned, how can this rental rate be increased in the future? One is based on the footfall. So if, for example, post-COVID, okay, the footfall, because the economy recoveries and then post-vaccinations, so all the domestic activities will resume basically. So it will help us to have more footfall in our terminals because when all the travels, all the business activities resumes and so forth. So it will help us to actually increase the footfall. And also, secondly, is the spaces available. Like Kampar Putra Central, what we are charging is actually 2/3 of what we are charging at Meru Raya. So why is it so? Because Terminal Meraya is a mature terminal. It has been operating for more than 8 years. Okay, so it has all the footfall data, the growth rate, and so forth. So Kampar Putra Central, this is just our first year operation. So we need to gather the footfall data and so forth. So, and then with the students coming back to the university, especially on the UTM that ran one stories at our terminal, so that will bring at least like 3,000 to 5,000 students in future. That will be a captive market lah in our terminal. So that will actually help us factors to help us to negotiate for a higher rental rate in terms of advertising and promotional. So there is a lot of rooms to grow, especially for Kampar Putra Central.
That's great. The next question is by Chua Wai Min. Can you share more about the project facilitation fee, PFF? Now, understood from your IPO prospectus that the PFF is generally one-off item, but from the recent financial reports, it is not just continuously recurring, but also consistently increase in size.
Okay, maybe I can share about the project facilitation fees, how it works first. Okay, so how it works basically is there is this third-party project managers that partner with us to actually they go out and pitch for those interested parties that they would like to build a terminal in a second tier city. Okay, but like I mentioned, because the expertise in this industry is very very limited lah, because majority is owned by the local council, so very limited private companies that have this kind of expertise lah. So basically, they partners with us, so we will provide a consultancy services to guide their clients out. Okay, whether is it feasible to build a terminal in that particular location, whether is it in the master plan of the state government. Okay, so how is the construction cost like? What is the facilities that we should put inside the terminal? So what is the justification for us to build a terminal? And what is should we add a mall? What is the facilities that we need to put in? So we will get them from A to Z, construction cost wise, operating costs, and so forth. Okay, so once we have prepared a concept paper with all the justification, all the construction costs, the drawings, and so forth. So upon mutual agreements, agree with that concept paper, we will view them 2.5% of the total gross development cost. Okay, so we will build them. So it is actually a one-off project in that sense. But like I mentioned, there is a lot of opportunity in Malaysia because there's more than 100 terminals that is owned and operated by the local council. So there might be a lot of developers that they are interested to also owns the land in a new township. So because terminal normally is the one that helps to initiate the footfall and then the development in that new township. So that is very important to have a terminal in every township. So if that particular client is a developer that own the land, so they just need to build a terminal, then surrounding their shop lots or residential houses, so that can sell now. Okay, so but we always tell people that project facilitation fees will not last forever. Okay, but it will not phase out or disappear in the short term. Okay, so based on the study that we have, so the current market shares that we have is around 20% currently. Okay, so if we grow to 30% in future, so this project facilitation fee will still last for 2.5 years. But if grow further to 40%, it can last for another 5 years. If grow further to 50%, it can grow for 7 years. So the max that we think we can advise is 50%. So we cannot be advising all the terminals in Malaysia. So 50%, at least it can still last for 7 years. So it will not phase out in the short term. It will at least last for like between 5 to 7 years. But by that time, our Kampar Putra Central will be matured. Okay, we'll have all the revenue and earnings coming in and so forth. And then we will have like Bidor Central. We will have a lot of terminal management services. There will be a lot of expansions and development in our group lah. So then if one day this project facilitation fee slowly phase out, it will not significantly impact our bottom line. Okay, so and then in 2021, you can also see that the project facilitation fees will be slowly diluted by the additional incomes from Tampa Putra Central or terminal management services. So you can see that actually our main revenue is actually from rental of shop and rental of advertising and promotional. Okay.
Okay. The next question is asked by Pani Molly. What is your outlook on consumer demand to travel going forward? And will your overall capex in 2021 be higher than 2020?
Okay, so regarding the domestic travel, we think that in 2021, post-COVID or after the vaccinations or post-MCO, so the domestic the travel mobilities will actually increase. So basically, because there is no more restrictions to cross state or cross border and so forth, so that will actually increase. That's why we say that our footfall in our terminals will definitely increase by that sense. Okay, for in terms of capex, yes, it will increase in 2021 and moving forward due to terminal management services. We already secured 2 terminals currently, so that will involve a bit of capex, but minimal capex lah. But Bido Central is expected to commence the construction second half of this year, so that again there will be a bit of capex lah, but it will throughout the more than 100 million construction costs will be throughout a 2 years period lah. So it will be between it will be over 3 years, 2021, 2022, and 2023. So the revenue contribution expected to commence in second half of 2023.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. The next question is asked by Sean Chua. He has several questions. So let me ask the first one first. So his question is all revolving around your DOO terminal, which are Meru Raya and Putra Central. So the first question is, do you own the terminals and lands?
Yes.
All right. The
There
second
is no
question.
Concession.
Yeah. The second question is, do you have a concession with the local council with protective clause that disallow other new terminals to be built in the same area?
No, there is no concession. So the land and building is owned by us.
Okay. Are there any expiry date to the concession?
There's no concession.
No expiry date lah.
No concession.
But there's no concession, right?
No concession.
Okay. The fourth and final question is, can bus operators choose not to use your terminal but operate from other side, like they drop off passenger without entering your terminal?
Cannot, because our terminal has been gazetted by the local council. So it's regulated for all the express bus that pass by Ipoh have to pick up and drop off the passengers in our terminal. If, for example, they pick up and drop off the passenger in front of their shop lots outside, so it's actually illegal lah. So the local council can actually summon them.
Oh, okay. So that is good to P-Trans. Right. There are also questions in Chinese, so I'm not sure if Data would like to take it. So 这个问题呢是来自千安 Hyun 呢，就想问，请问巴士行业在未来有什么挑战吗？
巴士在未来呢，对于我们的巴士总站应该会更加的美好啦。为什么呢？因为呢，现在每个州他们都要发展他们的旅游的地方啊，巴士总站啊，还有带动那些旅游业啊。因为每个国家它发达的国家，通常人家一看都是那个公共交通的系统啊。比如新加坡那些、香港那些，人家一来看就知道这公共交通到巴士总站，就看这个总站他每个都要发展他的本地他的州啊。在我们来看未来的计划呢，会很好啦。
好的，太棒了，太棒了。那接下来呢，这个问题是来自爱之 Lima，所以他想问大豆，就是那同时间发展 DOO 还有 TMC 这种生意模式会造成公司的负担吗？
像因为我们发展我们自己的车站呢，我们不全部会，因为我们做那个跟踪发展局那个不会带我们很大的那个钱啊，出很大的钱，因为我们发展那个本地那个局、那个州局、那个车站呢，总站来讲呢，我们大概是6个 million 左右到8个 million 左右啦。因为我们建我们自己的本一个车站，差不多要120个 million 左右啦。通常这样，我们每2年计划里面会建一个我们自己的总站呐，不会带来很大的影响啊。
OK，所以没有太大影响。OK，好。
没有太大的影响。
我们谢谢大豆为我们解答2个中文的问题。那接下来我们就用英文来问了哈。So we will get back to those English questions. So just let me have a look. Now, the question that asked by several people is, I see that there are some common questions that ask about how is Perak Transit going to fund all the expansions going forward? Because there seems to be like, a lot of projects, in the pipeline.
Okay, so because we have we have a successful completion of Warren, so there is around 120 million. So not all the funds we have utilized to repay the partial repay our sukuk lah. So there is extra fund for expansion. And then secondly, from our sukuk is actually a 500 million program. So we have already only draw down 300 million. So if there is a need, we can draw down a balance of 200 million in future for further expansions lah. So there is a few options for us to funds lah. Of course, we also have our internally generated funds for all the existing operations and new and upcoming operations.
Okay. All right. There's a question by Tan Yiping who said that who asked how high is the risk that the advertisers do not renew their advertisements since MCO and COVID had reduced the crowd? Since terminals contribute the majority of this revenue, will this be detrimental to the group's revenue?
Okay, so I think we should have gone through the worst year lah for everyone, which is the pandemic year, mostly in 2020. So 2021, it will be a better year because of the vaccinations and the economy recoveries and then the opening up of borders and so forth. So in 2020, even during the pandemic year, the rental of advertising and promotions, there is actually no reductions in terms of the prices. So we only give a bit of discount, 3 months discount to our shop and kiosk tenants in the second quarter, but it does not significantly affect our bottom line. So for advertising and promotion is very much secure in that sense that is actually no discount provided in the, we can say, a worst year, a pandemic year lah. So in 2021, we are also able to renew, have an early renewal of that rental. So we wouldn't foresee that there will be any issues with the media agency lah. Okay. So and then we are also developing and expanding our terminals in other states and other cities and so forth. So if the media agencies they are making profits, they will of course co-partner with us so that we can bring them along in all the projects, in all the future projects. So that's why there is no reason for them to terminate.
Okay. We have questions from YouTube who want to ask that, this is by Hanafi. Do you see local councils privatizing the management of local terminals to companies in the future of this business?
as I mentioned, there is very little private companies that own and operate terminals. So, and we are actually building our terminals based on a private funding initiative. We are using our own funds. So the local council would encourage the private sectors to participate because we are actually forking out our own capex to help the governments to upgrade and improve the public infrastructures in regions. So it's actually a win-win situations in all areas and between all parties.
Okay. The next question is by Yong Singer. Any comments on your side businesses, namely the petrol stations, bus operation, and mining management? What is the prospect for these business divisions? As we can see in the quarterly report, petrol stations and bus operation business is going down the slope. Any plans by P-Trans to amend the situations, or P-Trans is currently focusing on DOO and TMC only?
Like I mentioned, the bus operation and petrol stations basically is a support activities, but it's also very important to us because, like I mentioned, buses help to bring crowds to our terminals. Okay, for our bus operations, even during pandemic, because it doesn't really significantly affect us. Yes, the revenue did drop, but the earnings actually did recover, which means that recover quite okay. So in terms of the earnings, because majority of our buses is consist of stage bus instead of express bus. So stage bus, which means that we can still operate within the city, so no need to cross border. And then we have a secure and secure subsidy from the government. So it's not based on ridership, it's actually based on the services provided. So that one is in terms of bus services. So in future, we will secure more projects with the local council. For example, like the projects that we obtained for Perak Hot On and Hot Off, and we also cover the Manjung project. So we basically rent our buses to the local council. So they will pay us a rental fee. So all the cost is on us and so forth. So and then we might also convert more our express buses to this kind of projects, because this kind of project we will have a secure rental from the governments and also subsidies and so forth. So we might convert more express bus to cater for this kind of projects so that we no need to purchase buses in future. Okay, so regarding petrol stations, so petrol station we know that basically is quite stagnant. So the margin of it, although the revenue might look very high, but it's actually quite stagnant. So the margin of it is only around like 1%. So for petrol stations, we are not going to expand on it anymore. So 4 is enough to supply for our buses and also to public. So that one will be status quo. Okay, so our focus will still be on the terminal operations. So regarding the mining, this is actually not real diversifications of our business. So because we are only helping to do marketing in terms of mining, so because but the contributions it will not be significant compared to terminal operations. So our focus will still back to the terminal operations.
Okay. The next question is asking about operation costs. Can you provide any insights into the operation cost, given that the inflation is expected to increase in 2021?
Okay, so in terms of operation costs, maybe I should cover the terminal operations. So just now I shared that our gross profit margin is around 80%. Why is it so? Because majority of the costs already capitalized when we construct the building, or when if we do upgrading, renovation, already capitalized. So our operating costs will only consist like minor maintenance, manpower, utilities, and depreciations and so forth, finance costs, all those lah. So that's why our gross profit margin is so high. And then the rental also in the rental of advertising and promotions. So it's because it's all on the pillars, walls, and so forth. If we didn't rent out the spaces for advertising, so it would just wasted. So if we want to advertise that, we are not going to incur a very significant cost also. So it's very minimal cost that we have to incur. So that's why our margin can be so high in terms of the terminal operations.
The next question is asked by Ting Lip Ong. That he noticed that the cash flow reduced a lot if compared with the financial year 2019. So is there any reason for that?
Okay, like mentioned just now, so some of the cash that we receive from the conversions of warrant have already used to repay the partial repayments of the sukuk, and partially of some of the cash flows we have used, like before we obtain the CCC, is used for construction purposes, and also renovation, the internal renovations for like the basic renovation for tenants and so forth. So mainly it's for the capex purposes.
Okay. There's this next question asked by Michael Low, which is any plans to expand regionally around Southeast Asia or in ASEAN? So I would like to maybe ask Dato to answer this question. The question is 不知道Perak Transit 有没有念头想要把这个公司的业务呢扩展到东南亚的地区呢？
因为我们目前呢只是集中在马来西亚因为马来西亚现在有100多个巴士总站，我们集中力在马来西亚，我们也有想过会在沙巴沙劳越那边会将来啦，如果有机会，如果有好的机会、好的前途，我们一定也会过去那边沙巴沙劳越那边目前我们集中火力在本地霹雳州跟外国马来西亚先这样。
好的，谢谢 Dato. So according to Dato, Perak Transit right now just want to focus on Perak and also the Peninsula Malaysia as well as Sabah and Sarawak. So, but if of course if in the future if there are any opportunity arise, then may look into the ASEAN country. But at the moment, focus on Malaysia, Peninsula and South and East Malaysia. All right, so that answered the question by Michael Lau. So the next question is asked, by Wong YT, will the change of government affect your company and operation activities?
No, because we are actually providing a service to the public. So if we are doing good jobs and then right thing, so there is no reason to change and also because it's a high barriers to entry. We really own the land and the building. So and then we have the track record and the experience and so forth. So so it will not have any effects on our company's life.
Okay. There's also this question asked by Megan Loa, which is like how many percentage of your revenue is on recurring basis?
Okay, so what I can say is mostly all is actually recurring basis. So because I will classify project facilitation fees as recurring basis for in the between 5 to 7 years. But in future, when we have more and more expansions, more and more terminals, the earnings and revenues derived from all these terminals all recognized, then only the project facilitation fees will slowly phase out.
Okay. There's also this question by asked by Kang Long Mok, which is to say that it's interesting to see that the 4 petrol stations contributed almost 20% of the income, 5% each approximately. So is there any plan to invest in more petrol stations as 20 of them will be equivalent to the revenue contribution from the terminal operation business?
No, because like I mentioned earlier, revenues, in terms of revenue, it might look high, but in terms of earnings, it's very minimal. So the margin of it is only 1%. So compared to the terminal operations, the margin is 80%. So is not comparable in that sense. So not going to expand on the petrol station anymore.
So the focus is still in DOO and TMC lah. Huh?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay. The next question is asked by Eddie Leah. Are there any possible revenue synergy and growth factor with electrical bus future trend?
I think there is possibility for electric bus in future, but for time being, no, because electric bus is still very costly compared to the diesel bus. And then, like I mentioned, if you have more projects, we will rather convert our express bus to cater for the projects instead of purchase of more buses lah. So that we can focus more in terminal operations.
Okay. There are also a few questions that I noticed asking about share consolidation. Like why did the company undertake the share consolidation?
Okay. So there is a few reasons why we undertake the share consolidations. This is actually happened after the conversions of warrants. So firstly, before conversions, our share cap is actually 1.4 billion. Okay, but after conversion of warrant, it increased to 1.9 billion shares. Okay, so with that huge, big size of the share base, so we'd like to consolidate 3 to 1 so that it reduced down to 634 million shares. So that it's easier for us to manage the share base and also to increase the trading price lah. So in that sense, it's double by 3 times. And then so that is basically the reason due to the warrant conversion.
Okay. The next question is asked by Fang Yi Tan. Do you have any plan to expand into Lumut area, considering that Pangkor is also seeing higher footfall nowadays?
Yes, there is a possibility lah. So not to disclose in detail yet. So that is plan lah. That is plan.
Okay, there are plans lah, huh?
Yeah.
When time is matured, we'll let you know.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Okay, so just now we also talk about futures prospect and so on. This question asked by Jackson, if I pronounce your name correctly, is what are the risks to the Perak transit?
Risk.
Yeah, risks to your company's business.
Okay, previously there is 2 risks lah, which I share. Okay, one is how are you going to convince the existing express bus operator to move from the existing terminal to your new terminal? So, but then with our expertise, because we are also one of the bus operators, so we are able to handle that, and also we obtain a support before constructions. So we will also communicate with the local council to issue them a letter to ask them to move over lah. So that is basically one. Okay. The second one is how are you going to convince the express bus operator to move from an individual ticketing booth to a centralized ticketing system? So this again, the advantages is we are also the bus operator, so we will initiate that. Okay, and also share with them what is the benefit of centralized ticketing system, so that the express bus operator can also save costs through this initiative lah. Which means that they do not need to rent a ticketing booth from us, and then doesn't need manpower to sell ticket at the counter itself, do not need to pay utilities and so forth. So everything will be managed by us, the system vendor. Okay, managed by the system vendor itself lah. Of course, we will charge certain commissions lah based on per ticket sales and per bus entrance, but it's still cheaper than they're operating themselves.
Okay. I also see a very interesting questions on my on the Q&A, and maybe I direct these questions to Dato Cheong. So the question asked in English is, as the company expand to several states right now, like in Kuantan and also in Kedah, right? So do you have plans to change the name of the company, like no longer Perak Transit? Now, because if you consider using technology in the company name as involved in a technology ticket selling platform, market will definitely give a different valuation on the tech stock lah. So let me translate this question. 就是说大豆就是说，就好像你们的公司 Paratransit 已经发展扩充你们业务到好像吉打啦，去到彭亨州啊，就有没有想过换一下公司的名字，就不要用好像 Paratransit，就可能用一些比较科技化的名字，因为现在的科技股呢有很高的估值啊。
暂时呢，我们本来有打算要改一个名啊，但是呢，因为我们北浪港区现在已经很 branded 了，去哪里他们都知道北浪港区是一个管理车站的公司来的。已经一讲北浪港区，我看各个州他们都已经知道这个北浪港区是 dominant management 跟管理做车站的啊，所以目前还没有打算要换名先啊。因为它目前全马来西亚来讲啊，对于其他的总站，对于其他的 authority 来讲，他们一听别了反税，他们应该是知道做那个总站的啦，比较有名。如果你改名的话，有可能他们会感觉生疏这样子，因为我们的名堂也已经有10年了，在马来西亚。因为目前来讲，北尔是怪出名了，所以目前还没有打算去换这个名字了。
OK，好的，谢谢Dato. Okay. So as Dato said that, at the of course, Paratransit right now is very reputable and the branding is very strong, and everybody knows that Paratransit is in the management of bus terminal and also the provision of a public bus transportation service. So there's definitely no plan to change the change the name from Perak Transit to other fancy technology name, because to harvest the benefit of strong brand name in the operating industry. So that's the answer from Dato Cheong. All right. Okay, let me see. There are still like 60 over questions on my screen, even though we have answered like 40 of them. Okay. Let me look at the next question. Okay, this is asked by Lim Ning. With the expansionary plan right now, will the debt increase again?
The debt, because our debt level currently, net gearing level is is only around 43%. So it very much depends on what kind of expansions lah. So for example, terminal management services, most likely we are going to use our internally generated funds. But for the develop, own and operate the Video Central, we might need to utilize some of the funds from the conversions of borrowings, internally generated funds, and also some mixtures of the sukuk funds lah. So, but the gearing, the net gearing will not grow very high lah, compared to 2020.
Okay. The next question is asked by Wong Hui Mang. Will the upcoming shopping malls around Perak affect your IPTT revenue?
Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, we are different from a mall because a mall now you have a direct competitors, which is online shopping. But for us, we actually have a captive market because passengers, of course, they can purchase the ticket, bus ticket online or self-service kiosks or ticketing counters. But the passengers need to be physically present in our terminal to ride a bus. So that's why there is a captive footfall so that our advertising and promotional can sell in our terminal.
Okay. Do you think your DOO success in Perak can be replicated in other states given your advantage in Perak, operation track record in Perak? That's asked by Faisal Hashim.
That is a possibility that we can expand our DOO to other states. But for the time, because for DOO, we cannot build and own a lot of terminals. So I think the max that we can own is like there's five terminals. So because the capex that is involved is very high, so that's why currently we already own 2 terminals. So the next one is Bido Central, is also located in Perak. But we will see where is the more strategic locations of that site. So if there is more there is a better opportunity in other areas, so we might consider. So that is a possibility.
There's possibility. Yeah. Okay. Now, in your financial forecast, do you foresee the effect of the post-vaccination to impact your company bottom line favorably? This asked by Albert.
Yes, like I mentioned, because post-vaccinations is help to open up the borders lah, and also the public, the passengers, tourists are able to cross borders, and the economy is also recovering. So it's actually better for us in terms of the footfall, especially the footfall, because in terminal operations is the important factors is actually the footfall. So once the footfall increase, we can negotiate for a higher rental rate with the media agency.
Okay. I also see a very interesting question that I also would like to pose it to Dato Cheong. Okay, the question is, has Perak Transit considered putting or converting the terminal operation into a real estate investment trust? 就是 translated, which is ，Perak Transit 有没有考虑过将你们的 terminal operation 的 business 变成一个房地产托？
没有啦，因为我们从来我们就是 focus 我们的terminal，因为我们terminal会带动有人潮进来，我们的巴士也会带动人员进来嘛，所以我们这边 focus terminal 罢了，不会 focus 那个 real estate 啦，focus 巴士总站啦 ，integrated terminal。
Okay, 好的。Okay, so Dato's answer is that they have not considered converting the terminal into a real estate investment trust. So that's his answer. So I think right now we are coming to the end of the Q&A. I guess that today for all the 300 over participants on the line right now, we have a really engaging question and answer session with the management of Perak Transit. So if you like this management interview series brought to you by Kenanga Investment Bank, please type yes in the chat box so we know that if you like it, then next time we will interview or invite more management of listed companies to come and join our Kenanga webinars. All right. Okay, thank you so much. So yeah, so before we end the session, does Dato Cheong or Jennifer have any message to want to share with all our attendees today?
Okay, just some last words. So Perak Transit Berhad is not just a bus company. No doubt we are a bus operator, but that is just a platform for us to tap into the terminal operations. So our focus is on the terminal operations. So in future, our growth will be through the two engines. One is the DOO, another one is the terminal management services. So that is our focus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Now, if you like this session, all right. So, Dato, you have anything to add on, right?
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Okay. 好的，谢谢 Dato 抽空为我们出席我们这场由Kenanga webinar Kenanga 举办的线上讲座会。All right, so of course, for those of you who are tuning in right now, if you really love this session by Perak Transit, like you gain enormous value from this, please type P-Trans, okay, in this comment box. Please type P-Trans if you learned a great deal about their company. Wow. All right. Thank you so much. So before you leave, so let me share with you what has Kenanga prepared for you. For the next webinar, Kenanga has already invited a very renowned speaker who is Mr. Ui Kok Hua to share with you the Malaysia market outlook. 2021. So that is happening on the 18th of March, which is a Thursday, from not 8 p.m. It's 8:30. Okay, there's a typo here. Okay, from 8:30 to 10. Just give me a minute. From 8:30 to 10 p.m. So the registration link have just given to you in the chat group. So if you have not, later I will post it again in the chat group. Okay. Please, if you want to learn about what we call things about the Malaysia market outlook in 2021, please tune in to our next webinar brought to you by Kenanga Investment Bank. So with that, one more thing, which is if you have not had a Kenanga trading account, please hurry up and fill up this online form. Just head over to www.kentrade.com.my/open-account-form. So to fill up your interest to open an account with Kenanga. Personally, I also use a Kenanga trading account. So if you have not had a Kenanga trading account, please head over to the www.kentrade.com.my/open-account-form. When you fill out this form, Kenanga Investment Bank will arrange a friendly dealer representative to attend to your account opening request. So with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in online, and also want to thank our wonderful panelists who are Dato Cheong, the Executive Director of Perak Transit Berhad, and also Jennifer Chin, who is a Chief Financial Officer of Perak Transit Berhad, for sharing the company's background and sharing your business performance as well as the futures prospect for Perak Transit. So thank you everybody for tuning in to today's webinar, and may you have the pleasant rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.